Welcome back, everybody, to the Twin-Tailed Podcast, the only Age of Sigmar podcast that starts the game with its Fury level at 7. I'm joined by my co-host, Jack. Jack, how you doing?
Good. Yes, and we have a special guest today. Chomp is here as well.
Yeah, now from what I understand, Chomp is super lovable, and he's great, but he hits on 7s.
Basically, yeah, he hits on 7s.
It's a good way to describe his like athletic ability is, yeah, he hits on 7s.
He also has no recognition of danger. Everything he sees is his friend, which is probably not true on life. But hey, he does his best.
Which is ironic because he's possible prey to any other animal that he encounters.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome in, everybody. Thanks for checking in. We're doing this a little bit later than we wanted to, but this is kind of like our flagship content. This is the meta draft where we take turns picking factions that we think are going to have high win rates after the battle scroll, and we'll talk a little bit about each one. And we will do our best to share our insight, but we are not experts with many of the factions, and so we'll just do our best. But one of the coolest parts of this podcast is that you will comment and tell us that we should have had Khorne way higher, and then it turns out that we were right and Khorne was exactly where it belongs.
Yeah, we got so many comments privately as well, and I was just like, man, maybe I did mess that up, and then it kind of ended up being perfect. But to be fair, I messed other ones up, so it's on the balance, right?
Exactly. I mean, I made some pretty bad choices last time. Of course, Jack won the bet again. So he's got a new Cruelgast Cruciator. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah. So I bought that for him. And this next one is going to be really, really difficult to call because we've got new points. We've got brand new army rules and updates, and also the Scourge of Akshi and a new GHB. Everything's changing. It's going to be very, very difficult to call this one, but we're going to do our best.
Yeah, I think there's certain things like everyone's just saying shooting is better, and I agree, shooting is better now. That said, how do you quantify how much better it's going to be, and how much does that translate into actual win rate increase? So we'll figure that out as we go.
Definitely. And before we start, we have to mention our sponsor, which is Richmond Reroll. And so this is a shop that you can go to in British Columbia, Canada, that will get you all your wargaming needs will be fulfilled, but also all of your TCG needs, etc. And it's also where all the best tournaments are held. And so if you're ever in the Pacific Northwest and you want to come up to a tournament in Canada, check out the Richmond Reroll GTs and RTTs. They're a really fun time.
Yeah, they have excellent staff, excellent fan base, or people who go to the store. Everyone's really cool, so highly recommend.
Awesome. With that, we have to start the draft. We actually didn't talk about this. Who should have the first pick, or do we have to roll off or something?
Oh, yeah. Who had it last time?
I don't know. I mean, I could go back and watch that, but I don't have that information at all ready. Want to just roll off? All right, we're back after a quick pause here to go get some dice. I've got my dice. Jack's got his dice. Okay, we're gonna roll off.
The Witcher, Dandelion, or Yaskir Bard dice. So they're pretty cool.
Yeah, and these are cheap Amazon dice, and one of these is missing a pip because they're cheap Amazon dice. But I'm going to go ahead and roll here.
Okay, me too.
Okay.
Oh.
And I've got a 3.
I got the 6, the Bard, the loot.
Okay, so you can choose to give me first pick. That's one of your options. But please go ahead. Why don't you start us off here?
So just a reminder that we also... we snake. So even if I take the first pick here, then Mysidia is going to get 2 in a row. So I think I'm going to give the first pick away. I'm going to give the turn away. Seems
interesting.
To be the play. And then
that's probably pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I think I can get 2 big ones in a row, maybe.
Yeah. Well, okay. In that case, I think I'm going to take Daughters of Cain. I think
that's what I would have done too.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. They're clearly a strong army. People are still getting used to playing them, and that's going to be in their favor for win rates. And they got a lot of point increases, but nothing like from what I gathered, I didn't see anybody going like, "Oh, my like army is prohibitively expensive." Like I did not see that kind of feedback. I did see that for some factions. I won't tell you which ones. And also, like, who knows? People always, after a battle scroll, if you go look for feedback, you're just going to see everybody complaining, and the armies are usually fine. Like if you go on a Lumineth Discord or Reddit after a battle scroll, everyone's like, "Oh, our army's totally effed now," and then they're just like still high 50s win rate. So like you can't ever take that really without a grain of salt. But yeah, I think they're going to be okay.
I think so too. The Ashkey stuff is good. We're not going to break down every single rule that everyone got. If you want that breakdown, though, Mysidia does have some really good videos on it. But yeah, like they've got some good new tools. For this new GHB, there's lots of fighting in the middle. I guess the one thing that they could be weak to is the shooting. But I think they'll be fine. If I was picking first, I also would have gone for them as well. Those were my options basically.
And I think on this podcast, we just you call me Alex. I think everyone knows I'm Alex at this point. So
wait, your name's Alex?
Yeah, man.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. We also, by the way, we have a little like auto draft thing. I'm showing the camera right now, Jack, since you can't see, like what is just like the win rate from top to bottom, and Daughters of Cain were at the top of that, based off of the latest data from Warhammer. But we're not going to necessarily draft in that order. It's just like, so you know, like kind of where they were in relation to this. We can always reference that. But Jack, go ahead with your next pick, or with your first pick.
First of two. Okay, so I'm gonna go for Sylvaneth. The Drycha nerf. It is like probably I'd say the biggest nerf, because I don't think the points were actually enough in some cases. They can still do pretty much everything they wanted to do. I still think their rules are awesome. I think their rules are going to be awesome for this GHB. I think they're going to use rage dice better than almost any army. I think, the way they heal, it's going to be infuriating when you almost kill one of their monsters and then they fight through the pain in order to keep it alive, and then like D6 heal it the next turn or something like that. So, or later that turn or whatever it may be. So I think they're still going to be very good.
This is one of those factions that I did see people specifically talking about. Like my list went up and the numbers were between like 150 and like 50 to like 150, like pretty gigantic point increases. And it does mean that Sylvaneth players are like probably on average taking a unit out of whatever list they had, or just swapping to a cheaper unit. But I agree with you that that's not going to be a game changer. I still think they're in a really good place, and Sylvaneth can actually try out some of its shooting that I think probably took more of a back seat in the last year, and that will be interesting to see if like new Sylvaneth builds come out of that.
I think there's parts of the army we haven't seen yet. There's strategies we still haven't seen. Like the book is new enough that there's still cool stuff yet to be found. And then how it all plays within the GHB as well. I think with a lot more maps having centralized objectives, it means that creeping undergrowth will have more impact. It's less spread out. You can condense it more in the middle. And then with some of these weird tactics, they have the means to get around and score them. So they can be a fighty army and try and table you. They can be a scory army. They have these options, which is nice. And then, high level players can take an army with that, like that, and go and run with it. Because your opponent can't prepare for one specific play style when you can maybe play it a bunch of different ways.
Okay, so far we actually are on the 1 and 2 for like the first the two best factions of the last battle scroll. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna break that right now, because the third best army from the last battle scroll is in a new book. So let's see where you go with this.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna go Slaanesh. I think that's just too early to call that. And I think that there's going to be certain armies that really benefit from all the changes. So I have two choices here. It's really tough. I think there's one that's more fun and one that's maybe more solid. I'm gonna go for the more fun one, and I'm gonna do what I didn't do last time, and I'm picking corn. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
I think we're gonna see lots of bloodthirsters. I think we're gonna see Scarbrand. I think also on top of that, the rest of their army still has some points drops and improvements from before. The big nerf was to the bloodletters. And the fact that they can't use their pylon, extra pylon on all of their bloodletters, only on one unit of them. It's still a good ability. It's still going to come in handy. I think there's different ways to play this army, and I think too a lot of Khorne players are bringing the Hellsmiths Regiment of Renown, and it's gotten even better now. So if you have your big monsters and some pretty good infantry, you also now have this Regiment of Renown that can deal with other people's monsters pretty handily. So I don't know. I think we could see some pretty good play out of Khorne players.
I think that's a bit of a reach, but I also do think Khorne's going to do well. So please don't get at me that I'm saying Khorne's bad or anything. I just, that's pretty early to be taking them, but we'll see if it pays off. Scarbrand did go up in points, and so people that want to play the all bloodthirster Army of Renown are going to have a harder time, but in terms of regular Khorne, I actually think they're in a good spot as well, and that the bloodthirsters are still, the bloodletters are still a very efficient army, or army unit. So I think they're in a good spot as well, especially with that what you said about obscuring. So do I pick two?
I would be remiss to not mention as well that they have more than one Army of Renown, and I think the other one is also going to be benefiting from these new rules too. When you have all these solo heroes flying around, doing big damage, fighting through pain, rage attacking, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think them being hidden was kind of a big deal, right? In the last GHP?
True, yeah.
Because you can, like, I can shoot a hero off a board a turn with, if I'm playing cities or KO or something, right? So I guess we'll have to see how that all shakes out. I do pick two now, right?
Yeah, now you pick two in a row, and then... Oh, wait, yes.
Okay. In that case...
that would be how it works.
In that case, I am going to pick with my first pick Cities of Sigmar. And I think that this is sneakily going to be like people are focusing on the Cog Fort and Gallant nerfs, but they're actually better. They have better builds than those builds anyway. Like the Cavaliers not being touched is absolutely insane. And they won't be touched until the next battle scroll, which is when this bet ends. And so without Cavaliers being nerfed, double Cavalier builds are going to absolutely blow up. Their amount of shenanigans they have between charging, counter-charging, and repositioning charging. And then on top of that, you just have all of the other great parts of this book. And the book has so many good parts to it. And I actually think the Pontifex Zenestra Akshi version has some play as well. I'm going to be testing that out to see if I can get like some more infantry builds going as well. But either way, I think this one's set up to be a high. There's also just a fleet of high level players behind Cities of Sigmar that are willing and ready to drive the win rate up.
Yeah. I mean, the Cav being untouched is huge. I still think they have so many tools. There's so many parts of the army that haven't yet been explored. I think the Gallants still have a role, depending on maybe what the battle plans are for the tournament you're going to. Because it is annoying for you, I know, when people don't attack them. But then I think you got to park them on an objective that's in a high conflict zone so that they can at least be part of the mix in some capacity. But I think they were high up on my list. I think it's a really good pick. I actually if I wasn't going to go Khorne, it wasn't going to be Cities. I have another one. So I'm interested to see what your next pick is here.
Yeah, because there's two wild cards that we should talk about, which are Slaanesh and Ogres. And both of them are getting new books. Ogres stat lines shouldn't be changing, so they should still be, at the end of the day, quite efficient for what they do. but the points will be really big. And obviously looking at some of the rules, the burger lust, things like that, if that's, we just don't have the information. So those two were really high up here. I'm also really unsure of how, I think Lumineth is good. I'm not worried about points changes. I am worried about the Super Friends list that, and the Dawn Riders, like specifically that list was like the winningest list for Lumineth. And so I know they're going to be plus 50, but I want a winner here, right? Like I want a faction that's really going to drive my win rate up, because that's what I've lost 2 of these bets now, and both times it's because I'm not getting the most value out of this round. And for that reason, I'm going for Flesh Eater Courts. I think they're coming in here. Yeah, so I'm putting them down as my third choice. I think they had some of their like big monsters go up because they are anticipating that they'll be picked for the Fury mechanic, but I think they had some pretty cool Axii rules, and then they just are a very consistent army. They always seem to be in a good spot in 4th edition.
Yeah, didn't like an Oops All Dragons list win the Edmonton Open as well? Oh, I could be wrong about that. I think it was that. So even without the rage mechanics, it was already like arguably maybe too strong and needed to be bumped again. Just enough so you fit one less of them. But I think the rest of the army is also super solid.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to play it. They have good rules. There's not like too many like players playing it that will bring it down too. There's lots of high level players playing it. I think it's a good pick. It's not the pick I thought you'd make, if I'm being honest, but I think too, like, making swings at this point, like I don't know. I've gone out of every draft having made big swings and been like, well, shouldn't have done that. But then it always kind of works out for me. So that's why I don't feel too bad about Corn and some of these other ones I'm about to make.
Yeah, well, like I guess let's see where you go with your next 2 here.
So the one, if I didn't pick Corn, the one I was honestly thinking about picking was KO.
Interesting. Okay.
I think they're gonna be like they actually dropped points on top of the fact that they can shoot again. So everything's kind of coming in the middle, so they can shoot at it. It's not going to be obscured, soften it up, and then they do have ways to like jump around between objectives. They have like ways to retreat and shoot. They have lots of different ways to play tactics wise. I think their Scourge stuff is pretty good. Their barbecue war scrolls and everything is decent. I think that high level players play them, so I think you're going to see them be decent again. I don't think they're going to be like broken or anything, but they'll get me solid win rate, which
definitely. And the only reason I didn't pick them is because they burned me last bet. I picked them last time and they really dropped off. It was the first time they had dropped off this edition, because they had been a safe bet every single battle scroll up until the most recent one. And that really stung. Like that's one of the reasons I lost the bet. And so maybe that's a little bit too in my feelings, but I didn't want to pick them again because of that. But also because the objectives are quite crowded in this GHB, that does mean that even with their shooting and their mobility, like it's a little bit harder for them. They're better. Last season's maps were like better for like stealing side objectives and getting around and stuff. Like I did that a lot with Lumineth, and it's a little less, unless, I mean, if you're playing against Iron Jaws, then you know every map feels like it's miles wide, but otherwise, yeah, I think that's still going to be difficult for them with the new rules. But yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, so it's tough because there's some good picks here. I have Lumineth as one I could go for. Ogres as well. I feel pretty safe about them, even with the new book, just because they're ogres. They're. I feel like they don't stray too far from it. I still think Lumineth though is like intact. High level players play them, and I think there's still so many ways you can play that army that I don't foresee them. I see their win rate maybe dropping a bit, but not by a ton. So I'm going to hold on to them. I don't know. As a Lumineth player, like, how do you see it?
So I agree with you. I think Lumineth are still in a good spot. I mean, I said that when I didn't pick them, that I still thought they were going to be plus 50. I just didn't know that they were going to be in the 50, like that value range that we're starting to see is those armies in the 56, 57 range. You really want to grab those. And I don't see them being in that range, but I do think they're still going to be okay. I think that there's some really fun stone mage builds that possibly will come in and do some funky stuff where early battle rounds, they are stopping a big monster from, like, for example, in the game that we played last night, you had a cabbage dragon for Iron Jaws, and the new Lumineth can just stop him from coming over the field unless you roll high enough, until your rage is like high enough or you roll really well. And so that kind of thing is like pretty crazy to fix somebody in spot. The other thing that they have going against them though is just that, like, to lean into other parts of the army, you need to bring a hero for every part of that army. Like they might have some of the hardest restrictions for regiments out of any faction in AOS. Like, to bring the wind, there's a few units that can bring everything, and then otherwise you're kind of like stuck picking within your sub faction, and that can be. I also don't think that their actually barbecue buffs were very spicy at all, but still they're going to be a good army.
Yeah, I still think Severith's good. I still think Eltharion is still very good. It's just you have to plan a bit more about where he's going to go in because of how he can go in, and then the fact that you can't immediately all-out defense him to the biggest threat that he's going into. It's still a very good ability. Lumineth's one of those weird armies where, like, they do points increases to try and balance them, but like their points are already so high that like it is like a little unfortunate for Lumineth players who have such a hard time list building already. Like, that's one of those armies that I feel like building a list is just difficult. It's tough.
It is very difficult because you know how you often end up with 100 points at the end of your list. Like, that does nothing for Lumineth. Literally, I think only the ballista can be your, like, oh, I guess I'll put a ballista in, but it's not that good. Yeah, Dawn Riders at 200 is like they had to go up. They were the same point cost as the wind chargers, and like that just didn't make any sense that they were the same.
The River Blades didn't have to go up. That was kind of funky.
Yeah, they're not that hard to deal with, but either way, we digress. So cool. I think at this point, I am going to grab those ogres because you said, I just think that they're safe enough to grab. They're going to do well. There's good players that play them, Carson specifically. But I also may have a hot tip that one of our local players that is known to do very well is going to be picking them up as well. And
interesting.
We'll be driving their win rate up, and so I think that's going to be good. The tricky thing is that we like literally don't have their book yet, and so we just don't know. And also the production part of it, where people have to get certain units built, but that might actually help in the short term, where established ogre players will play in proxy whatever they need and quickly build up like specific new heroes to put with their armies.
I think as long as the base sizes don't change, most of it's a refresh, so they already have the units, so they can take their time, building and painting everything, and just use the old guns and the old iron guts and so on until their new stuff's ready.
It's the new heroes and stuff they have to get up and get them out there.
Well, as I pointed out, you can proxy Pontifex Zenestra as Red the Maw and vice versa. They're very similar to each other.
They're basically the same model, and if you don't believe us, go check it out. Like, it's shocking that they would just basically copy their own homework. GW, like, what are they doing? It's nuts.
Yeah, no, Ogres is a good pick. I think that's a spicy nug you have there about that's insider trading at its finest.
I know. I just happened to be having a conversation with this person this morning about Cities of Sigmar, and then they mentioned they were going to play, and I'm like, oh, interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, so the next pick, I actually would love to pick Slaanesh, but I can't because it's just a second new book, and there's so much risk there. But what really, it's just that the fact that their win rate got so high last battle scroll, there are some good players playing Slanesh, and oh man, I'm so tempted to do it, but I'm actually gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab Tzeentch, because I think Tzeentch is still in a good spot. They're still a really efficient book. They've still got high mobility and lots of tricks and teleports and stuff. And so I also think that the new the Ogroid Thaumaturge coming back, he is so fun to play, and he's actually Eltharion, but less durable. But like he is literally like, okay, he can teleport to whatever combat he needs to teleport to, go in, do some damage, and but less damage than Eltharion did. But he's like he was the concept for Eltharion the first time they tried it, as far as I'm aware. And I played I think 2 games with him, and it was just so much fun.
Definitely. Yeah, they're one of those ones that I thought about picking earlier too, because I don't think enough's changed that would make them like not good anymore. I think fate points combined with fight through the pain is like potentially a real nasty combo where you think you've taken out Kairos or Lord of Change, and it's like, nope, they're still up, kind of thing. So I think they have the potential to still be piloted at a very high level.
Yep, and they have lots of shooting too, so all of that is going to be more viable than it was. Not that they're shooting focused armies, but there's just like lots of units that have little shots and stuff that will now be like mostly in effect.
Nice. There's 2 I'm thinking of that would be maybe reaches. I think also though. What's that?
Is one of them Hellsmiths?
No, well, yes, one of them Hellsmiths, but then another one, they're ones that I think if I leave, it's a risk, but they could still be there in the next round, and then it's actually quite nice value. So I'll start with the one I'm happy about, which is going to be Ironjaws.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
We have big monsters that we can use for rage dice. We have those recent rule changes where we can, have our buffs actually last a turn, which is gonna be nice. There's fighting in the middle, which is good. I think some of the tactics for us are very hard to do. But I think you're going to see lots of Kragnos. I think you're going to see lots of big pigs with Shadow Tusk. And I think you're going to see people trying to table the good old fashioned way and have a good scrum. And I think if you're someone who wants to play more of like a techie Ironjaws style with infantry, tagging people, being difficult to move off of objectives, I think that style is actually still in play too.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I think they're just really, really solid. They're basically always at that 51% win rate, and they're gonna stay there and just keep your average good in terms of this bet. Like, they're just a really solid pick. But also, I do think this is a good GHB for them, and they're an army that can withstand some shooting as well. And if you absolutely need to, you can fight through the pain to keep something intact.
I wish our book had more stuff going on, but at the same time, like, we've gone to the point where our points have gone low enough that, brutes at their cost at 160 is like, I think a really good value. And I think the barbecue brutes are pretty good. I was down on them at first, but then we played them last night, and yeah, they're just like, they're solid. Either you don't go into them because you don't want to activate their buff, and now you have a full unit of brutes attacking you.
Yeah.
Or you go into them, and maybe they all defense survive, and then next thing you know, you have 3-2 hitting on 3s, wounding on 2 brutes coming at you.
And speaking of the like counter shooting, somebody, because I know we were talking about this earlier, that like, oh, if someone you told me that if someone counter shoots the brutes, then they get to activate their ability, right?
Yeah, well, because it's an attack ability, right?
Yeah. So
we get the plus to anyone who attacks us, basically.
Yeah, and I know that specifically, like my Fusiliers, 1, I don't care if brutes go into them. 2, they're actually like further back. But there's other counter shooting units. Like there's more like bruiser counter shooting units that you can specifically point your brutes at, and because you get to dictate who the counter shot target is. It's the closest unit, and so you can play those brutes in a way. Someone was commenting on my video about this, that you can play the brutes in a way that you are saying, okay, you can counter shoot these guys, but then I'm going to charge them in and they're going to get a super good profile, even with it, so you can basically turn that off.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty cool. And then also even just the Gore Gruntas came down 10 points.
Yeah.
And for their tankiness, their movement, their ability to screen and tag things, yeah, it just feels right. It feels good to have that at a lower point total.
Big time. Okay, so where are you going next?
So I do think I am actually going to go for Hellsmiths. I think obviously shooting is better is the hot take with Hellsmiths, but low key they also have consistently just had lower points over every single update. The fact that you can take their cows, no, what are they called? The Dominator engines, and you can fight through the pain. They're already on such a low save, and then you can fight through the pain and really keep them alive. You can run a lot of them now. I just think there's a lot of ways to run this army. I think things that weren't good, like razors, are better. It's easier to give them their points with that new buff to their faction rule. What is it? 1 command point for 2 points now?
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be better. I think there's a lot of people who have the army built who was like, oh, they suck, and then stop playing them. And I think people will come back to them. Hopefully, it's like the top level players. I don't think this is one that's gonna like go up to like 57%. I think this is one that's just gonna go up from where it was. You know what I mean?
Big time. And so for reference for them, they were at 48%, and so they can easily get over 50 or 250. I think is kind of where you're hoping for them.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be fair. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the CP change, the obscuring change, and then I also like the new Infernal Taurus. I think he's pretty cool too. So we'll see how that all kind of shakes out. And also just they've had lots of point decreases that now will be even more effective because those shooting options are even stronger.
Yeah.
So okay. So for my next pick, at this point, we're actually getting to the point where we're going to start picking factions that were sub 50 in the last GHB. There's a few plus 50 that are left. So Nurgle's left that was at 51%. And then Slaanesh was left at 56%. But brand new book, we don't. And I actually haven't made my Slaanesh video yet. I'm in the process of scripting it. And so I don't have any studying done. Like I don't have in-depth studying done on them. I wish I had. It would really help here because that seems like a good pick because it's a lightly played faction with good players that are playing it. The other one that's really interesting, I think, and you're going to be like, oh, don't pick them, is Idneth Deepkin. Is always very interesting. Although for the same reason that we were just talking about with KO, their mobility is really good, but in a GHB with smaller sizes, I don't know if that's going to come into play, but they also have lots of shooting. And now the Namarti Reavers or Thralls or whatever they are have that chain shooting and stuff. So I think I'm going to go safe with Nurgle because I think they'll stay plus 50. That's an easy one. Their Rot Sword spam combo got nerfed, but they're just fine playing one unit of Rot Swords and one support hero, and then they can branch into other parts of their army. So I don't think, I think this is a great nerf where it's like, okay, great, now people aren't going to spam one single unit, and they can just lean into the rest of the army, which is still really good. So I'm not too worried about Nurgle overall in terms of the changes that they had. But how do you feel about Nurgle?
So, yeah, I think the big nerf was to the infantry corps, but then with this new GHB, there's a couple things. Like one, I think disease is going to be very powerful. Some of the deployment zones are absolutely tiny and crowded. Of course, the maps are more central. Nurgle's slow. They like that a lot. So that's good for them. They have tons of monsters that can benefit from the rage mechanics. I think you're going to see more Glotkin. I think you might see some lists that have maybe a Rotigus and a Guo in it. You never know, right? They have so many big monsters that are great. That we may see more of. Festus might be able to actually do his thing now that he can just go park himself in the middle and say, hey, come at me. So I think the positives outweigh the negatives on them. We'll just see because it felt like with Nurgle they had that like sharp rise when they were new and good, and then a bunch of other shiny new books came out, and it felt like everyone's like, oh, on to the next thing. So
Yeah, and they did. You could get like the more reps you got against Nurgle, the easier it was to play against them.
I mean,
The
all I played was Nurgle for so long for a
oh
bit
my god,
there.
I played against Nurgle over and over. The other
Yeah.
thing is, specifically you and I, like, or everyone that played lots of Nurgle, the Nurgle lists that we were playing against are going to be hard to deploy in these battle maps. Like we're gonna need to see some pivoting away from 320 blocks of infantry. Like that's just not going to be very fun. You're going to block yourself a lot, I think, and it's going to depend on what type of terrain tournaments put down as well. But I think that's going to be a factor.
Yeah, I think Demon Prince for them would be spicy to bring it back again. And then also, there's also that Chaos Regiment of Renown for the shooting, which with Nurgle, you could make a pretty fun little Castle army there.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You can really protect that shooting core. Yeah. So, okay. So now the choice is, I mean, I know you probably have some other sneaky factions here that you think are going to pop off. I know for a fact you think Skaven might have a big jump here. I am too scared to pick Skaven, and I think I'm afraid you're going to steal Slaanesh from me, but I'm going to go ahead and take Idoneth Deepkin here because they actually multiple times Idoneth Deepkin have been a overperforming faction in your 2 wins. Yeah. They've been actually the last one they dropped off a bit, but you've had some pretty nice wins that involved Idoneth Deepkin kind of overperforming where you picked them at.
Yeah, they've been just this absolute dark horse for me both times. I rate them very highly. I think they were better for the previous GHB and what was happening there. Just getting around those big maps with lots of objectives. I think they're going to have a harder time in this one. I don't think they use the rage dice poorly, but I don't think they use it as well as other armies do. And yeah, it just kind of feels like, you know, the Sharks, all Sharks isn't as good as it used to be. So I don't know. I guess like I'm actually lower on them than I normally am. I still think they're a good army. I still think you have really good pilots with them, but I think they'll probably just be around 50%.
I think that the shooting in Idoneth might have a chance to take off. But the counterpoint to that is that OBR gets the same rule where they can fight and then they can chain shoot. And that hasn't propelled them to any heights, although that was in a different GHB. So there's a real question about that. The chain fighting and shooting is way more flexible in Idoneth than it is in OBR. In OBR, you need a specific unit, a hero to make it all happen, but it can be any Hellion in Idoneth, and so that's going to make this a more interesting combo. I think the Leviathan could do some good rage attacks, and then I think that there's just like, I don't know if when you play against Idoneth, they have tons of little shots from like tons of different units, and all of those shooting, like you can't hide from that anymore. So when they use their mobility to surround you and start picking you off, like that's going to be like pretty bad for a lot of factions.
Yeah, I do think they have some really cool stuff, and I'll probably be proven wrong, but like, you know, I'm someone who goes with his gut, and my gut at this point is lower on them than it was previously.
Okay, so. Great. So what's your next pick, bro?
Well, I'm tempted to take Slaanesh.
Yeah.
Just because you want them so bad. And I don't have like a super good feeling about all these other ones. Like, some people have talked about Cruel Boys having the ability to do better with, you know, centralized stuff. They still have their Gut Ripper combo. Mind you, it's with the Killaboss now to get the extra attacks instead of the battle formation. And the Killaboss, I think, is going to be pretty easy to pick off, even if he has that artifact with him. Yeah. So who knows how good that combo is actually going to be. The Mire Brute can pop off with Rage Dice. They have some options, but I don't know. I think Cruel Boys is just always destined to like not be as good as it should be. I think I'll do Slanesh. I'm not going to be able to give you guys crazy, like, oh, this is why Slanesh is going to be so good, because I haven't read the book. What I am,
It's
what
not
I do
even
have
out yet.
is, what's that?
It's not even out yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I can't tell you anything, right? But what I do have is that people who talk online who seem to know what they're talking about have said like, oh, like I can work with this, I can do that, and they've, like you said, the players are generally pretty good who play Slanesh. So I think I'm confident that they'll at least be 50%.
Yeah, I think a certain Slanesh player is gonna tell us that we picked it too late, but I think that was a good pick. And so at this point, are you going Skaven?
Yes, for sure, 100%. Yeah, so I think Skaven, they have like really good areas where you can use rage dice. I think Storm Fiends are going to be way better. I think with the grinder as well, you can do some really cool stuff. I think they have the ability to score really well. The fact that they have that teleport, all their spells go off on 6s, if I'm not wrong. They kept the Screaming Bell, which is really important. So now you can have this like clan rat army kind of fronted. Behind it, you can still have your special weapon teams. Probably with the rattling guns, if I'm being honest, you can have your Giselles picking things up. There's lots of options. I think the points are right. It should play well into this GHB, I think.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think the biggest worry that I had about them, they were also a faction that let me down last time, so I was not going to pick them. Is just that their player base is so freaking gigantic, and we're going to see people bring down that win rate. And so, yeah, they're a good they were a good faction that people can do really well with, and now they're arguably in a better spot. So like, there's no doubt that they're a high level faction, but their win rate is still going to be low. I'm sorry, man.
I don't know. I think you might see it spike above 50% and be able to stay there. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. What's next for you here?
Yeah, we're in the point now where we're getting into some real serial offenders of low win rates, and they just can't seem to get out. And what's like, any of you at home might be saying, well, they got this buff, they got that buff. That's been happening since the beginning of 4th edition. We're into the point where these factions have received any number of ways of help and just can't get out of the funk that they're in. And so it's really hard to pick. Like, you just don't know. If you're like a really good evaluator, I'm sure there's people that know which ones are going to be sneaky good when good players get their hands on them. But I think I'm safe to say, Jack, for you too, like at this point, we are kind of just picking at random factions that we feel good about.
Yeah, I mean, like, exactly, yeah, that we feel good about. So stuff that we've looked into or read, and we're like, like now I feel like you're playing with house money. You're just making some picks. And then at the same time, just like we were trying to get a big whale at the beginning of the draft, you want to avoid something that's going to completely tank you, because your losses have come on the back of like, 47% city and like a 44% gets and stuff like that. So you want to avoid those guys as well.
Exactly. Yeah. The armies that tank you for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to note that you winning these bets is partly you picking good and partly me like not picking bad. Like picking the bad picks that I made were like really bad, except for Slanesh last time. That was a great pick. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to pick Stormcast Eternals.
Ooh, and that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I'm picking Stormcast Eternals is 1, they were close to 50. 2, even though their shooting went up in price, that's better than it was. But the most important part is that they have this really crazy enhancement that basically can put one of their heroes onto like 7 damage crit mortals or something. It's like something crazy like that. And I think it's going to be super fun. I think there's going to be some really creative Stormcast builds. I also think a lot of these GHB maps are really good for the counter punch style that Stormcast can do, because everyone's going to be coming into these objectives. And so you'll just see them like offer up something and then come in hard with their hammers. And so I think this will be a good showing from Stormcast.
Yeah, the same thing can be said for Skaven, in which you have newer players that might tank the rate a little bit,
Yeah.
um, just like I do for Iron Jaws, for example. But I had them as my next pick as well, just because like long strikes were untouched. I just feel like long strikes are gonna show up on this GHB and
I
just
think, didn't they go
torch
up
everyone.
20?
I'm pretty sure it was the not the long strike crossbows, but the other whatever version of it was
Oh, the
went up.
hurricane one or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I
So,
must have
which is
misread that.
crazy to me because I mean I'm not an expert, but like I don't know, long strikes. I've played against them. They're pretty fucking. Oh, pardon my French. Pretty good.
Yeah. Can
Yeah,
you not fucking swear on this podcast?
yeah. I'll try not to. That's pretty
Okay,
bad of me.
cool. Apparently, as long as you don't swear in the first part of a video, like that's where it's checking.
I held off
And,
long enough.
apparently, like if you swear within the first minute of a video, it really does. Like they check that, and then they won't show you to as many people because they're trying to protect certain viewers and stuff, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, like Nurgle players. They don't want to hear swears at all.
Exactly. They're those gentle summer
souls.
lads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the OCARC Bone Reapers for my brother,
Yeah.
not you, my other brother that plays OCARC. And I think, God, it's so hard because hypothetically they seem like they've got really good rules for winning games, but then they were 48. I think they're probably hard to play is what it is, but they've got a lot going on. And I do think that this new GHP will be really good for their archers, the chain shooting combo, and some other stuff that they can do. And the chariot buffs that they got, I don't think were really enough, but I still think that they're going to be in that 50 range.
I think a lot of people say that their book isn't good. I think their book is good. I think their points are probably a bit too high. I think
okay.
I think some points come down, and then maybe they can like Catacross is like pretty expensive. It feels like, but yeah, I think if points come down, but this won't be for this this 3 months that we're betting on. It's going to be on the next 3 months, but I could see points coming down and them getting even better.
I do think the new Voke Mortian, the Master of the Bone Tithe, is really fun. Like that's going to be a crazy model to play with, and we'll see if that actually sees more play now. But that's going to be very exciting. All right, let's go to your next pick.
Cool. Okay, well, shoot, you took the one I was going to do. I think at this point, I'm going to piss someone off, no matter who I pick. So I do think I'm going to go Cruel Boys for my next one. It's funny how like literally 3 picks ago, I'm like, yeah, it's too soon for Cruel Boys, and I'm like, hell, let's go. So Cruel Boys, I think they have good shooting options. Their rules were changed a bit to make it a bit more, your dirty tricks a bit more available depending on what you're trying to do. If you still want to do a wombo combo with your gut rippas, you can. You just have to set it up a bit. And then you could see some more monster versions of the army. And then Gobsprak, I think, too, is underrated. From what I've been reading online, apparently he's been popping off. I guess there's a reason why they didn't want to let him do that ability more often. But when you think about it, like he's handed out mortals quite a bit every time he dispels something, and he's doing it on 3d6.
Yeah. For example, if Gobsprak goes into cities and I can't get my +1 attack spell off ever, like that's going to be a really big problem. And it also means that in cities, we'll probably start taking, like you'll have to take Erasmus just to have a higher health wizard or something. Like if like it was that oppressive, shutting down spells is a really big deal against certain matchups. And so that's I guess it depends on now putting him into your list. How much does it affect everything else that you want to bring now that shooting's better and you have to fit in a new gut rippers combo, etc.?
Well, I think you're less reliant on having as many gut rippers as you had before, and potentially even monster killers. You might, they're so good, and there's gonna be so many monsters, so they're probably still gonna be just as many monster killers. But maybe if you just need more screens, you can bring the Slitters in because they're so cheap. I think Cruel Boys does a good job of trying to mess with what your opponent wants to do. So in the hands of a high level player, it can do a lot of damage in terms of changing their game plan. The problem is that if big hammers come into it, like a lot of stuff can get deleted very quickly. So you have to screen properly, and then maybe just having tons of cheap slitas, just like buffering before you're shooting and gobstrack and so on. And then you can send some Mire Brutes in. Like the points are low enough and the rules changes are good enough that I think you'll see some decent play out of them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many people that have just these flat stacks of Slittus brews that are unbuilt are like, oh crap, I got to build all these. And they do have their faction rules did get buffed quite a bit. Like the fact that they can get more instances of the crit on 5s and it teleports and stuff. Like they just have way more tech options than they did before. So yeah, good shout. Okay, where are you going next?
So I think Slave, Seraphon, or Soulblight would be one of the next picks. Tough because I think Seraphon, like they got some cool stuff. Things have changed, but I still think like their war scrolls aren't like super good. Like you can kill them pretty easily, and then they come back as a half unit. But then, how much does that really help? Soulblight just kind of feels like vampires are nothing at this point. I think I'm gonna go slaves because I think so the problem with slaves is that the bandwagon has started, as a friend of ours has said.
Yes.
People that are jumping back on, and that might be what screws me because they're all going to jump on and go to like Chosen Vanguard and then like maybe like not play, like hit them into screens and then whatever, right? It might not work out, but points have gone down. They still have some really good options like Archaon's dope, Bellicor's dope. I think you're going to see some high-level players go back to them and try some things out. But, oh, man, I don't feel great about this pick, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, the fact that Chosen went down in points makes it such a tempting prospect where you're like, okay, people can like just load up their first Slaves army from the beginning of 4th edition when they were crushing and they had a high win rate. But the game has changed since then. There's so much more tech and so much more stuff available to factions to deal with that army. Whereas at the beginning of the edition, they didn't have as much and people were learning the edition and stuff. And so it's just really not something that I think is going to ultimately break that high win rate because of, again, how everyone's adjusted, and 2, because of how many new players or jump oners are going to just say, oh, I want to get a quick win with slaves and I'll get into them.
I think that you can, like, your ability to change like who you're pledged to, demon princes are going to be a bit better. I think that stuff's really cool. So it gives you more play. I think there's actually some options, especially for example with Dark Oath, to play a different style of slaves and to play a more techie slaves and do different things. I just think the problem is that like a lot of people come to slaves and then they're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to play Chosen. And Chosen are good. Don't get me wrong. They destroy me every time I play them. I think Iron Jaws into slaves is a tough matchup, but the win rate doesn't lie, I guess is what I'm saying.
Definitely. I would love to see more Dark Oath stuff. I know that Dave in the Garage Hammer podcast always goes on about like how he hopes Dark Oath eventually one day will break out of slaves and just become its own army, its own faction, like the Dark Oath faction, and get its own line. And personally, I'm so on board with that. I think that would be amazing.
It's really cool. I would potentially buy that army for sure.
Well, it's like it's an army that lots of people would identify with. It's your wildlings from Game of Thrones. It's your wildmen from Lord of the Rings as well, and just like even just the humans that served Sauron, like type of stuff. Like you can get some really cool themes there that people will really want to play.
Yeah. The thing, their points are so low, you'd have to buy so many models. Sorry to go off on a tangent.
Yeah, but then once they were in their own army, it would be like Cities of Sigmar, where they would get faction rules to make them greater than the sum of their parts. But Definitely. There would be like these, like they make the oaths, right? Like their oaths would become more powerful and stuff, and they would get faction specific. Anyway, this is a different podcast that we're talking about here. We could do that at one point where we like pitch a faction to each other that like each of us create a faction for the game.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pick Seraphon.
Yeah.
I think that there's lots of good stuff in Seraphon. We know good Seraphon players that have been winning the whole time. And it's really just the people that stick to like one build that are bringing it down, and they just have lots of good stuff that's going on that can win them games. And I just have to hope that people will figure it out.
Yeah, there's good Seraphon players in our meta. And even just within Canada, I do think certain lists like that Oops All Stegadon lists that Shada's doing out east, like I feel like that list benefits a bit from rage dice, right? You can keep them alive or you can rage out with them. But I do think what I said earlier about Seraphon is true, that like they probably just need a new book at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the most important thing. I am curious about the new Slan because he lost a lot from the old version, but he is just like very cool. And I'm sure people are going to experiment with that as well.
Yeah, it's just cool, fun rules too, which is nice.
I'm going to go. I mean, so we're really at the point now where we've got two factions that are stuck with bad rules that aren't getting enough help, and then two factions that have massive player bases that generally bring down the win rate. So I'm going to go with one of those factions that has a big player base, which is Soulblight Gravelords.
I figured you would, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some just high power lists with either, if you just go heavy cav of either variety, the vampire cav, or if you go with the death rattle cav, like either one are going to be your kind of like big heavy winning list. And I think that the Barrow Kingdom side of things actually came down in points a little bit. And so I don't know. I think that will be interesting to see, but I don't have a ton of insight on them.
Yeah, I just wish that with Soulblight that the zombies and skellies were a more like playable part of the army. It felt like all the buffs were targeted towards the vampire side, which was weird because those that's what people were playing already.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think the skeleton and zombie side's way cooler than the vampire side.
Me too. I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so I have either Gits, Night Haunt, and Fire Slayers. Of those three, I'm picking two.
Yeah.
I think that Gits is such a tough one because, like, once again, they have so many players, and they're a hard army to play. Like, they have certain things that are good. Like, you can do certain things with Trogs and Boingrots and maybe a Kragnos. That new ability they have that lets you obscure your Boingrots could be really powerful. But, like, it's still, even with all of that, like, you can't make a mistake. Like, it just feels like with Gits, if you misposition something, or like the random characteristic doesn't go your way, or you just have a bad attack roll and you miss a bunch of attacks that you should have probably hit, like that can cost you the game. Where it feels like other armies, like with Ironjaw, sometimes I'll misplay, and like just on the strength of my 3-up save and large health totals, I'm okay. And I feel like you don't really have that with Gits. Like you kind of have to play perfect, and then the fact that it's a new player base sometimes because it's so attractive to play, they're awesome models. You just have people that like are losing games that maybe like a better player would win, but it's a lot to ask of them. But I'm still gonna go with them because I do think that the buffs are cool. I think they have some new pieces they can do. I think those dedicated high level Gits players, I'm hoping they can get the win rate up so that it's just enough not to tank my whole portfolio here, basically.
I think that the new obscuring rule that they got is going to help that like objective play army of Gits. Like, I don't know if you've seen that list where they want to like play the objectives and flood them with little grots and stuff. Like, yeah. I think that's, but then that army is super hard to play and super finicky. Yeah. And so not a lot of people are going to play that. And so that's ultimately why I didn't pick them.
Yeah. And like, we saw the last couple of battle scrolls, how they just tanked win rates for whoever had them on their team. So there's like that fully could happen to us now. But I don't know. I think you got to roll the dice, especially at this point of the exercise. So with my last pick, I'm going to pick Night Haunt.
Okay.
I think that with Night Haunt, it's really tough because they don't have like an outright clear path for how to use their rage dice. They're going to be shot at even more. Not that they have benefited from obscuring, but because now people are going to bring more shooting into their lists because shooting in general is better. So there'll be more chances to shoot at Night Haunt. I think Fight Through the Pain could potentially be useful to keep certain things alive. But I still think Night Haunt's core infantry is kind of overpriced. I think the main thing is with Night Haunt, if you with Ethereal, you can kind of save quite a few attacks. But if there's these big, big bruiser attacks coming in for like 5 damage, 4 damage, if only like 2 or 3 of those go through, that's just enough to wipe things, And Night Haunt can't actually bring anything back once it's fully eliminated, only kind of partially. So you're going to have people needing to play really tight games, keeping things alive. I think the faction train, you can use that as a block now, which is really, really nice. So if people are going to win with Night Haunt, it's going to be based off of high level play and not off of damage because they just don't have enough damage.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that like everything you're describing is hard to do. And people are going to have their reps in to get wins with Night Haunt because they're not going to lay it up for you. They're not going to put it out on a platter for you to just take wins. You're going to have to earn every win and you're going to play long games.
Yeah, and exactly. So it's going to be taxing. I mean, I'm building a Night Haunt army. I love their models. I think some of their rules are really cool. I wish they could interact a bit more in the other turn. I wish they had a bit more damage, but I do think there's some cool stuff there. The Night Haunt community online like is somewhat small, but like they're positive. They're just like, hey, how can we figure this out? Like, let's try new lists. Let's do this. It's not doom and gloom, which is really nice. Because a lot of other communities, I feel when I read the discourse, are kind of shitting on Night Haunt a little bit. And then the Night Haunt players are like, hey, like, this is what we got. Let's just make it work. We'll do our best. So I think those high-level Night Haunt players will get some, 3-2s, maybe some 4-1s. But I think it's going to be hard to see a 5-0 from a Night Haunt.
This would be a great time to bring up that I put the new background for the podcast this episode. It's an Iron Jaws brute punching a Night Haunt ghost in the face. And it's really sums up what we're just talking about here.
Yeah.
So with that said, there's one faction left, and we actually never clarified that Sons of Bahamut. We just kind of removed them from the exercise so that there's an even number of factions. I guess we could just see who doesn't get picked. That would be another way to do it, but we just decided Sons is kind of a weird faction. I don't know. No offense to Sons players.
Well, it's just tough because the way that they are, they're different than everyone else. So they're an easy one to pick out and leave out. So
yeah. The other thing is, if you're looking at this graphic and you see an extra faction there, this tier maker list that I brought up has Beasts of Chaos on it, and there's no way to take them off. And it's weird that they're on here because this is a 2020. It's like labeled 2026. Either way, this has not been given to me. I am picking Fire Slayers. Okay, I want that to be known here that I choose you, Fire Slayers. I think that the all Magmadroth list got better because their shooting got stronger because of the rune and because of some of the new barbecue spicy actually stuff. And so I actually think if you go all Magmadroths, you're in a spot now where you can do a lot more damage coming in, because I remember playing against all Magmadroths and the shooting came in and it's all D3. And I was like, at the end, holy crap, that could have gone way worse for me. But now it actually might go that way. I know it's still a big if, but I do think anything helps when it's an army that needs help. The other thing is, I'm really curious about how that new Deep Strike, allowing you to just take an entire regiment into Deep Strike, could really help them in the early game appear in 2 different spots and really kind of pressure somebody. That might be kind of interesting too. Or not even taking a full regiment, but just being able to take a properly supported group, not just a hero in one unit, but now you can take whatever the package is that would exist on its own and be able to operate. That's now possible. And so I'm excited to see if people mess around with that.
Yeah, I think they're interesting because so few people are playing them now that you just need a few people to do well, and actually like really spikes the win rate. But then at the same time, if they're not doing well, it can spike in the opposite direction very easily too. So they're kind of scary that way. Like who knows? They could be the Cinderella story, the Capo Verde of this draft. But I just think there's not enough people. I think there's just bad vibes around them because it sounds like they're going away or they're going to become part of a different dwarf army or something like that. So I think people are kind of bummed out about them still.
Yeah, I will. I will not be buying this new dwarf army. By the way, I'm not going to be tempted. I'm.
Wow.
I'm.
I think you'll be tempted.
No. Okay, I'll be tempted, but I cannot do another army. I need to chill the f out.
Okay.
But I hope Fire Slayers. I think Fire Slayers are going to be the last book. I think they're like the final book of the edition, and I think that might help in this case, that people don't see them coming on the horizon and they start to play them a little bit more, because people and magma drop lists, you only need 5 magma drops or whatever it is. Like you don't need, which is like really expensive, but I'm just saying people have that. Like there's people that have those lists from when they were good. And so those people can go back and play it again. They will want to bust them out and try again. And so we'll see how that goes.
Definitely.
Okay. So that's it. That's the draft. You can see here that I'm due for my first win. And Jack is most certainly going to take his first loss, but time will tell. And we'll just have to see how that goes.
Definitely. Yeah. And we changed the bet, right?
Yeah, so we're doing our classic childhood bet where whoever wins the other brother owes them a small bag of chips and a pop. Is that right?
Yes, and then at the beginning of the next episode where we do our draft, like a little like declaration of, you can write something for me that I have to read about you or something like that. I think would be
good. Exactly. You have to swear fealty to the other one.
That's right.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, or we're over an hour.
Loser has to morph back into the other twin, and we become one again.
Yeah, that, or we're gonna rent a banana suit, and the loser has to do the whole podcast in a banana suit, or we'll figure it out. Okay, we've gone over an hour here, which is great. Oops. Lots of good discussion, but we're gonna take off and get on with our days. So as always, we're gonna give Jack the last word before we leave. So Jack, take it away. Go.
All right, guys, keep the fury level high no matter what you're doing. Grocery store, at the park, at the beach, keep that fury level high.
That's advice you can take to the bank. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.